Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Stop thinking X, Y, and Z. Stop thinking about your pain. Stop focusing on your pain. Stop. Alright, so what I'm going to suggest is anytime you walk around saying, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that, you're kind of giving your brain a little bit of a puzzle. Because if you say stop thinking about your pain, what's the last word that your brain hears? Pain. You're telling it what to do. It's thinking about the pain. It's like saying don't think about a pink elephant. Oh, too late, you just thought about a pink elephant, right? So when you say stop thinking about your pain or ignore your pain, let me just clarify that one. I will never say ignore your pain. It's impossible. And when you can't do it, you're just going to feel worse about yourself because you can't ignore your pain. We can't ignore it. It's there. And sometimes it's really, really challenging, really tough, really bad. And so to tell yourself that unless you can ignore your pain, you're never going to get better, you're kind of setting yourself up for frustration and for self-critical, hey, I can't do this, what's wrong with me? Self-judgment. So look, don't try to ignore your pain. But what I will encourage you to do is take more of an observer role to your pain. In other words, when it's really kicking your butt, notice it. That's fine. Can't ignore it. It's there and it's jabbing at you. But instead of trying to ignore it and making believe it's going to go away, just notice it, observe it, kind of like a curious observer. Step outside of yourself for a minute and just notice it. It's fine, accept it. It's there. Okay, it's really bad. But the key here is to not react to it. Sometimes you can almost laugh at it like, oh, this is ridiculous, how crazy this is. Because you know there's nothing wrong with your body. You know it's not a physical structural defect. It's not a disease process. And you know that because you've been checked out by doctors and they pretty much said, I don't know, there's nothing major there. There's no disease process. There's nothing life-threatening there. So if that's the case and you've ruled out the life-threatening stuff, you can just assume that any of these remaining symptoms are TMS or distraction pain or distraction symptoms. So notice them. Don't try to ignore them, because again, trying to do something that's impossible will just cause you to beat yourself up for not being able to do it. What's wrong with me? How come I can't ignore my pain? And I've definitely had a number of you guys and gals message me saying, how am I supposed to ignore the pain when it's so bad? And again, I will never tell you guys to ignore your pain, but I will tell you to not give it any more significance than noticing it, right? Because, again, I talked about this in the video, stressing out about a stress illness is like pouring fuel on the fire. So if you really look at it that way and say, okay, my pain is really kicking my butt, or my symptoms are really distracting right now, notice them, be aware of it, observe it, and then shift your focus back and say, what's it trying to distract me from? How can I turn down the volume on my response and on my reaction to the pain or symptoms? How can I turn down the fight or flight? Maybe I can sit outside and do some nice deep breathing, right? So try not to react to the symptoms. And if you were walking around all day long saying, stop thinking about your pain, stop doing this, stop doing that, I would encourage you to think about replacing your thoughts instead of stopping them. So instead of thinking about your pain or trying to stop thinking about your pain, you can choose instead to think about your emotional world, what's stressing you out. You can choose to think about What do you need to do or want to do at the moment? You can choose to call a friend. You can choose to sit outside and listen to those crazy cicadas. You can choose to shift your thoughts away from everything that's wrong. And when you do that and you think about something much more productive, by default you've already stopped thinking about your pain. And that's because we can't think about two things at once. Now look, we may get, bouncing back and forth from pain to joy to pain, and we can try to shift our focus, and if the pain keeps pulling us back, but that doesn't mean we're thinking about two things at once. It just means that two things are vying for our attention. Our conscious mind, that prefrontal cortex, is trying to be the operating center of the brain and say, look, we're going to choose not to give this pain any more authority than it already has, and we're going to choose to shift our focus to something more useful. We're going to choose to soothe ourselves, to breathe through the pain, and forcibly relax our body. What does that mean, forced relaxation? Did a video on it a couple of months ago. It's to literally just force your body to let loose a little bit. I walked around like a straitjacket for months, years, probably decades, where I was so protective of not wanting to hurt myself that I literally had myself so locked up. And I do see people on Facebook commenting that my body is so stiff. I don't know how to get away from that. How do I stop that? Forced relaxation, in essence, when you have tense, stiff muscles, it's like you're in protection mode and you're trying not to hurt yourself, and you're just really overly tense. And so forced relaxation is to force yourself to loosen up. And I would have to force myself to loosen up and walk loosely, swing my arms a little bit more, not walk so rigidly, take bigger steps, whatever it was. So if I were to say, stop being so tense, all my brain hears is tense. Think loosey-goosey, think loose, think fluid, right? Think relaxed. It's hard to think relaxed and be tense at the same time. Right? So our brain can only do one thing at a time. So if you're walking around beating yourself up because you can't stop thinking about your pain, replace. Instead of trying to stop, think about replacing. I want to replace my negative thoughts with something more productive or valuable to think about or to place my focus. Because as I always say, what we focus on tends to grow and magnify. And if you're focusing on everything that's wrong with your life, both emotionally, relationships, career, lack of career, whatever, as well as your body and your pain or symptoms, if you're focusing on that, they're going to tend to grow and magnify, because what we're doing is we're saying, this is really important. Go ahead, brain, wire that up nice and tight so that we keep on firing those signals that are keeping the pain and the symptoms going. So don't try to stop anything, but really awareness. I talk about this a lot. Awareness is key. Become an observer of your thoughts too. And when you become aware of your thoughts, you can then choose to replace them with better ones. So let me know what you think of this. This is going to be a short video. I'm going to wrap this one up. But basically, stop thinking X is like saying stop thinking about your pain. It's just not possible. But you can replace your thoughts so you are no longer thinking about your pain. But saying stop thinking about your pain, all you hear is the brain. Pain, excuse me. I used to play an awful lot of golf. And if I got up to the tee box and my buddy goes, hey, don't hit it in the water. What's the thing that I'm thinking about when I'm standing up over the golf ball? I'm thinking, hit it in the water. Don't. The brain doesn't register those negatives. It just hears don't. Hit it in the water. Don't. Hit it in the water. Right? Don't think about your pain. Don't think about your pain. Too late, you already are. So instead, shift to something more productive. Think about what you're grateful for. Gratitude. Just did that video 2 days ago. Think about what you're grateful for. Think about what's so wonderful. Got a gorgeous day. The sun's out. Only a couple of small clouds. The cicadas are screaming. So, anyway, hopefully this is useful. Becoming aware of your thoughts and learning to choose better thoughts is going to go a long way towards getting you out of your current predicament, temporary predicament. So with that, I'm going to sign off, guys. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Share this if you think somebody can benefit from it. And we'll talk soon. Thanks.